You're watching Taste the Victory.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. While we are so close to getting BT8 here in North America, a lot of the rest of the world has Booster Set 8 already and has been even having tournaments and regionals for it. This past weekend, we just had Bandai-sponsored official regional tournaments for EU and for Oceania. EU was hosted by Cardmarket and was a really big deal to celebrate them finally taking Digimon onto their website, which they did not previously have, which is basically their region's equivalent to TCG Player. So let's go ahead and take a look at these topping lists and see between EU and Oceania what ended up topping. Let's see if we could get an idea of what our English meta will look like over here in North America. So first up are the EU results provided on limitlesstcg.com. So we're going to take a look at the top 8 lists in depth, and then after that we're going to just get a brief look over of what was topping throughout the rest of these placements. First up is Jorit, first place with yellow Rapidmon hybrids, or hybrids of destiny as I like to call them, since Rapidmon digivolves from the Digi-Egg of Destiny. So we see here that this is a pure yellow base with Rapidmon being the backbone of the deck. Basically how Rapid Hybrids is going to work is that you are using the efficiency and the recovery of your typical yellow hybrids build to keep you in the game, to be building a bunch of memory through your tamers, and then come out and clear board with your Rapidmon, just wipe an entire board to be able to set your opponent so far back while you poke away at them and eventually just close it out with Susanomon if you haven't finished the game through pokes already. Rapidmon is unbelievable. It can suspend and then minus 5,000 DP to up to 3 of your opponent's Digimon if you have 3 tamers out. And that effect is just absolutely devastating if you've not played against it. It's insane. Like, I have seen this thing clear boards of 2 ultimates and Imperial Dramon paired with Cody, because Cody has, when you swing a dual color Digimon, you can tap Cody to be able to minus 2,000 DP as well to the Digimon. It's just absolutely insane the efficient removal that Rapidmon provides. So already you have the efficiency of the hybrids digivolving over the tamers, their recovery, and then you have your cracked security of Eden's Javelin and Wyvern's Breath to take care of anything that wants to stick around after Rapidmon clears board. After that, we got 3 Imperial Dramon lists to take the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th spot. First up is 2nd place, Futuron, which has Imperial Dramon. So this looks like a pretty standard Imperial Dramon build. We don't have any crazy Chimeramon tech. As you see here, they run the Dino B instead, which can be useful to make your opponent permanently suspended for 1 turn. And then we also have the hybrid over here to secure lethal. A lot of times you are just that 1 swing away. Then we have 3 memory boosts, and that's probably where all the crazy techs end. After that, we see some pretty standard ratios here, which is really cool to see that the predicted best deck in the format is putting in a lot of work. It wasn't able quite to clutch it out, but it did take up a ton of spots of top 8. After that, we have another Imperial Dramon list where we see here some differing ratios. As we saw previously, this 3rd place is, let me give credit to Moonfire. So as we saw in Futuron's list, he's only running 1 of the STVmon. A lot of people don't like it because late game it is kind of a dead draw. Like, you're not going to get its draws off its inheritable, but early game it's insane because it will often let you draw 2 cards paired with one of your other inheritables. So as we see here in Moonfire's list, they are running 4 of that one. Vmon lineup seems to be pretty homogenized outside of that, although this one runs 2 more of the dual color searcher in 3rd place. After that, we got a pretty standard champion lineup, the 3 and then the 1 Lobo. Now this is something I mentioned in my deck profile. You see here, we have the Lobo versus the Kumamon. Neither is a wrong choice because basically you're just going to want to use this for game most of the time when they're at 0 security. However, there is that niche situation where if you have Lobomon, you can swing in security and it can survive over these 4,000 DP Digimon, and then maybe you could DNA with it, something like that. There's some fringe scenarios where that extra TP does come up, so it's interesting that we do see that difference represented in the tournament toppings. More importantly, the really spicy changes we see here are the Imperial Dramon Paladin mode and Mimi. So we see at this list, which has a more standard ratio of 3 Davis to Kennen Davis, but here we have that 1 Mimi to turbo out of your breeding area. Your level 5 lineups are half green, so they will trigger Mimi, so you can sometimes push out a rookie for a final swing, or just to be able to like digivolve over it again and then set up another DNA Digivolution potentially. Mimi is a really great OTK potential tool. And then you got your removal through Paladin mode. A lot of people do not like Paladin mode, so I don't know, Moonfire, if you're going to be watching this profile, but I would love to hear more about that, like in the comment section, or if you want to reach out. I would love to hear what was the meta call reason for Paladin mode and how did that end up working out for you? Did you end up using it often? Because yeah, it's strong removal, but 7 cost, and then its ability to reduce it is also really hard to hit. As we see here, they don't even have another like level 7 white card to reduce the cost of Imperial Dramon, so you're going for the full 7. You can HPD it, that's for sure an option. but I guess that is a little easier than its own effect. So if you HPD it, it's good removal, but you really do got to be careful with your HPD because sometimes you can just OTK with it. But it's really nice to see those differences in between those two lists. After that, we go into 4th place, which is another Imperial Dramon, and we see here some differing tech options again. So like they all have a little bit of different options. Here we see the Magnamon to get that blocker because Magnamon is really annoying in the mirror, and I really like seeing that tech option in here because like you're gonna have to pay 5 to get rid of it in the Imperial Dramon mirror, and then that's just terrible because you're just bouncing it back to hand with what's it called, with Mega Death, and then they can just Digivolve into it again. You have to deal with their blocker again. It's actually surprisingly annoying a blocker as big as Magnamon is for this deck, so that's a really cool tech option. We see the old Imperial Dramon from 1.5. That's really interesting because I'm assuming it works with the inheritable jamming that Xmemon gives you, so you're able to restand off of your Imperial Dramon. That's good synergy right there. I like it. And then we see the Somdi here in its option lineup. That is very interesting. If you don't know what Somdi does, you can suspend one of your Digimon to suspend one of your opponent's Tamers or Digimon, and then they can't unsuspend on their next turn. And that is all for only 1 cost. So that definitely locks down some opponent's Digimon. This stops them from being able to swing for lethal or swing back at you next turn. I've heard about that tech option, and I think it's very interesting. And it's really cool to see that it took it as far as 4th place in this tournament in EU. And this was a 200-person event, as we see here, pretty big. After that, that was 4th place. So we're gonna go ahead and go into 5th place. Let me give credit here. 4th place was Goro Majima. I like his name a lot. No, 4th place was Riku Spiritus. So great, congratulations to him. And then 5th place is Goro Majima. 5th place was Blue Hybrids. So yeah, there was a lot of talk that Blue Hybrids are still going to be good, and it makes a lot of sense because, you know, Armor Rush is going to be a popular deck, and those are kind of just relying on their sources to be able to Armor Purge. So you strip them, and then they're stunned, and then they have to hope to draw their DNA Evolution cards, which a lot of builds don't run, or if they do, it's only like 2 to 4 of, so you're not going to see it too often. So it does have a great matchup into that. It has a good matchup into X Antibody, and then you could be really annoying to Imperial Dramon too if you bounce their stuff instead of stunning their level 4 so they can just DNA again. But here we see, really interesting, it has the Gabumon package. If you've seen my tier list, you've seen that I've mentioned Gabumon. I think very highly of it in this meta because of that Armor Rush matchup. Like, it's a good slot option into your Blue Hybrids deck. Next up, we got another Imperial Dramon list. This, I believe, was 6th place, which is Maximilian. They have blue-green Imperial Dramon, and this one is finally we see Chimeramon. So Chimeramon is a tech option that people debate between Dino Beamon, which is usually because the reasoning is you could DP minus something into the 10,000 DP threshold for fighter mode, and that lets you balance a lot of stuff that is threatening you as a deck. Other than that, we see a pretty standard list here. Other than maybe 3 of the ST Beamon from the old all 4 starter deck. A lot of people just like to run it at 1 or 2, so seeing it at 3 is really interesting. Other than that, pretty standard. After that, we go to 7th and 8th place. 7th place was Eduardo, and then 8th place was Furai. So 7th place, we see another Imperial Dramon list, and this one actually makes the interesting tech choice of splitting between the Dino B and the Chimera. So you don't have to make a choice there. Running both is definitely a good option, and I'm surprised I've not seen more lists do that. You know, I don't think you need to go all in on either. And finally, our last list is another Rapid Hybrids, except this one is purple. So it's really interesting to see Rapid Hybrids doing so well, because a lot of people discounted this deck, you know, like, because the worry was that Yellow Hybrids didn't really do anything, despite still being a strong deck in our English BT7, because people were so worried about going to time and tying all your rounds when playing in the Bandai Webcam Regionals. As we saw here, we got 2 of the Rapidmons topping, because Rapidmon does speed the deck up a little bit by letting you be more aggressive, clearing your opponent's board, and then therefore being able to take more risks at security without worrying about your opponent clapping back as fast. So we see this has a pretty similar bottom end of yellow to the 1st place Rapid Hybrid list, except we also have the Kari Tamer to be able to set off your Schwartz in security. So that's really good, because a lot of decks in this format do just kind of sit on their level 4s, hoping to be able to DNA Digivolve next turn, because you didn't give them enough memory to do it that turn. So it's good to play into that and be able to snipe their board. So that was top 8. However, if we look at the rest of the tournament, we get a really interesting picture of the event, because that is top 8, but let's go ahead and look at beyond that. We see 9th place is more blue-green Imperial Dramon, but we see yellow Rapid Hybrid in 10th place. We see another Rapid Hybrid in 12th. We see a yellow Rapid Hybrid in 15th, and then this yellow purple hybrid is the classic one that we saw from booster set 7. If we look at this, it's like Dynasmon, Seraphimon, more of a classic. So even classic yellow hybrids is doing well into the booster set 8 meta. If you can like afford or have your cards fast enough in time to shift to BT8, your old BT7 decks are still going to be putting in work, which is a really interesting thing to see from this format, because they are still incredibly strong decks. That's why they had to be nerfed with the ban list, you know. But going back to that top 16, we see that Rapid Hybrids ended up taking 5 of the top 16 spots. But Rapid Hybrids offers a good counter, very good counter to Impale Dramon, because your security is annoying for them. If they get messed up on the combo, it does set them pretty far back with their board getting destroyed off of security. And then even if they're just like waiting, trying to go wide enough to swing a bunch of times, Rapidmon just destroys boards. So it is a really good answer to it. It has a great matchup into Armor Rush as well, because it get DP minus them. Speaking of, if we look at all of top 16, we don't see that a single Armor Rush deck made it into top 16, which is really sad to see. Like, that's a lot of hype going on for that deck. And speaking of decks that didn't make it, if we look just outside of top 16, we see the Black X Antibody barely missed it at 17th place. So I do want to take an in-depth look at this one, since we didn't get to see one in top 8. So at 17th, this was Dr. Sayus, and Dr. Sayus did get the Black X Antibody deck. So here we have a pretty standard list, because there's only so much variation you could do with the deck, since you need to have all the X Antibody in this trait's targets to work for your inheritables. We do see the 2 Breath of the Gods taking it nice and far. We see 2 Ayus, I believe is pronounced. The 1 Metal Cannon that gets you draw based on your sources, so it's a really nice one of. And we see 2 Alphamon, 4 Oryukin. Pretty good list overall here. The 4 Sonorisa is standard, about as standard as you can get for this type of list. So it's really good, consistent tool, and it's really up to the pilot to be able to pilot well and time your effects when appropriate to be able to get far with X Antibody. X Antibody is a deck that, like, depends on meta calls. You have to adjust to your meta, know what to bring, and know when to time your effects. So I do believe firmly with this doing so well out the gate that, like, top 17 is nothing to laugh at. That's still top 32. Very good finish. So with this being so early out of the gate for this new meta, I think as we get more familiar with it, X Antibody representation in the top spots will only increase and increase. Going back to the rest of the list, we get a more interesting picture, because we see here we got some red Ancient Greymon and blue hybrids also just missing out on top 16. So another blue hybrid list, and then we have red Ancient Greymon. This one is piloted by Vanita's Heart. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that list. This is OTK focused. Shout out to Huang Zero. They are using the tech from his list, which is the Alterous mode. Because what Alterous mode does is, like, you could Digivolve for 1 over one of your other level 5s. And because it's another Greymon in the name, you get more checks off of Ancient Greymon. And since it is a bubble, like a cost effect, you could do it in the breeding area. So you can just safely wait in the breeding area until you've Digivolved enough to get a bunch of checks and just clear security in one swing, and then wait till you draw your Omnimon, right? Your Blitz Omni, and then swing for game with it. We see the Rowdy Rocket tech, and actually I really wonder, like, if you watch the video and are watching, I really wonder, like, did Huang Zero discuss this list with you at all? Is that where the list came from? Because I didn't see a lot of people. I think Dan Vang ran something like this in the very last BT7 regional in North America, but other than that, I haven't seen a lot of discussion of it. So it's really cool to see. This is probably one of the absolute best ways to build Red Hybrid, because you're not interacting with your opponent at all. You're kind of just ignoring them and OTKing. So you know, with turning off options because of Aldemon, it's probably one of your most consistent ways to OTK. Then after that, we go back to see the rest of the placings. We see we have some more Impale Dramon. We see we have tons of Rapid Hybrids just within top 32. They take up a lot of slots. It seems like people knew a lot of Impale Dramons were going to come in and expect it to be the best deck. So people were prepared for it, and they brought yellow Rapidmon. A lot of people, EU did their research, you know, they did their homework. Yeah, because we see a lot of them topping here. So that's going to be one of the top decks in the format, since it answers it so well. After that, one thing I did miss that I want to go back to is we see yellow-purple Mastemon in 13th place. So we, out of all of top 16, I do believe this is the only, yeah, top 16 ends with yellow-purple hybrid. We only have one Mastemon list in the entirety of top 16. And that's going to be looking like a pretty standard list with the 2 defeats there. Magna Angemon at 4, 4 Lady Devi to draw and stuff like that. Tapir, yeah. But yeah, it's a pretty standard list. I have a Mastemon deck profile going up tomorrow where it'll be more explained in depth, the choices. So, you know, just you could look out for that to not spend too much time on this list. And another interesting point to talk on because of that is if we look at the rest of the entirety of top 32, we literally only see one other Mastemon list in the entirety of top 32. And that's down here at top 22 with Roxionne. So out of the entirety of top 32, we only see 2 Mastemon representation. So what does that tell us? Well, we can't really make any huge adjustments off of just of that, but it gives the implication that Mulligan really helps this deck a lot, and it struggles without it. Because looking here, looking at the profile that will be going up tomorrow, in general, Mastemon just has really weird level curves, really weird deck building to be able to facilitate the DNA Digivolution mechanic, because you need 2 level 5s to go into the DNA Digivolution requirement of Mastemon and get the full effect off. So because of that, you have to build your deck towards that, and it just gets really weird. So like this deck, in a 6 to 9 rounds potential tournament, without mulligans, it's asking a lot of this deck is what that seems to be implying from the results here of only 2 Mosses in the entirety of top 32. So basically 34, we got more Imperialdramon. We do have another Mastemon just out there at 35th, and then we got more. We have Beelzarmon Control, so that's a deck that Huang Zero has been hyping up. So we see that got a 30 for the first event, 35th place finish. That's pretty respectable for Beelzarmon. We have the Kakaida's Breath, we have the Mad Ishida, so that's really nice to be able to play that for free with Beelstar, because that lets you get past the X antibody matchup, you know, since they have like some other kind of protection, you can just bounce them if they don't have Breath of the Gods. I'm sorry, that was 37th place, and that was Dova TCG, shout out to them. We see more blue hybrids, we see yellow hybrids, and in the top 40s, that's not an easy feat. Top 48, that's really good. So yeah, blue hybrids and yellow hybrids, the old hybrid decks still can absolutely compete in the new meta. I don't believe we're seeing any Shivamon up here, but we do see a Beelzarmon Control, and finally at 44th place, we see Armor Rush. So if you saw my deck profile, this is a deck that I feel is really kind of overhyped. I think it's good, no doubt. I put it in 1.5, but I think that's the best I could do. I think it just doesn't have gas to keep up with the rest of the meta decks, because this thing runs out of steam kind of quick, and if you're not able to close it in that time period, you have a really hard comeback time. But for an Armor Rush deck, this is really interesting. You have Shakomon with then War Greymon top ends for more aggression and removal, and then minus 6,000 DP, right? That's what War Greymon does with swinging, so you can perfectly clear a lot of opposing armors without having to worry about armor purge. So that's a really cool tech option. I like that a lot. Congratulations for getting there in the top 40s, I believe that was. Let's see, go back to give them the credit where it's due. Armor Rush, 44th place, very respectable finish. We see another one down there in 51st place, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, Armor Rush, we have a more representation a little bit lower, but that is still top 64. That's not bad. That's what, 5 already? 4 lists we've seen so far in top 64? Not bad at all. So all of these decks are able to compete. We finally see a Shivamon just missing out on top 64, though that's unfortunate. But yeah, nice. It looks like we have a really good variety of decks that are cropping up within the top 32. It's looking to be a diverse meta. So that was EU's regional. Let's go ahead. Unfortunately, at the time of this recording, there is no data for Oceania regionals to this extent. And as always, if they do become available, I will add them to the description below, so make sure to check that out. But thanks to the amazing Discord user in Huang Zero server, which is Alex C Infinity, he was able to provide for us the top 8 of the Oceania event, and that was, first place was Imperial, not a surprise there. Second was Rapid. So we see again a similar story of Rapid hybrids being built to counter the best deck in the meta and doing very well, going very high up in top 8 because it did just that. Probably saw a ton of Imperialdramons and cleaned them. After that, they don't remember what third was, unfortunately, but fourth was another Imperial, fifth was another Imperial, sixth was Rapid. So a very similar story to EU, where we have 2 Rapids within the top 8, 7th was Rapid or Imperial, and they don't know what 8th was. But 9 and 12 was X-Anti, so that's congratulations to them. We see X-Anti just barely out of the top 8, but they are in top 16, very impressive there. So kind of similar to EU, where they just barely missed out on the top 16 with the 17th place finish X-Antibody list. X-Anti is just barely outside of all the topping lists, but I mean, like, top 32 is still very good overall, so it's definitely a great deck that as we get more meta experience, I think will only get better. Imperial, good as everyone expected. So what I think a lot of people will find surprising is that Mastemon really fell off. I think without mulligans, that deck really suffers in a potentially 6 to 9 tournament around environment. It's just really rough for it, so Mastemon is a good deck for sure. Like, we saw it got 2 placements within top 32, which tells us the deck can put in work. It's just that it's always fighting against itself, and I think it would do a lot better if we had mulligans, which I do hope comes back eventually, an official statement, right? I hope eventually we do get them, because I was in very big favor of mulligans. I really like them a lot, just to limit the amount of non-games you have in a tournament. But that is going to be Oceania and EU regionals top 8 and beyond. Let me know what you thought, and if you're excited for the meta so far. I think this gives us a great healthy look at what's to come and is really impressive in the initial diversity. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time. Let me know what you think, and until then, remember to stay hungry until you get a taste of victory.